Good afternoon, everyone. This is Sage live from the 𝐊𝐴𝐴 studios, and you are watching The Last Trade. The Australian shares closed higher on Friday, lifted by positive cues from the global peers and robust gains in the education, energy, telecom and bank stocks. However, concerns over rising COVID-19 cases in New South Wales and extension of lockdown restrictions in Brisbane and the Moreton Bay area limited the market's gains. New South Wales has reported 31 new locally transmitted COVID-19 cases in the past 24 hours, and the ASX 200 ended up by 43 points or 0.59%. And during the day's trade so far, the index gained and rallied as much as 0.6% to hit an intraday high of 7,312.30. Over the last 5 sessions, the index has virtually remained unchanged, the market breadth indicating the overall strength of the market was strong, with 9 of the 11 sectoral indices ending in the green, and the energy sector was the top performer, rising 1.7%. Among others, industrial, consumer discretionary, telecom, REIT, financials, utilities were the notable gainers, and bucking the trend, the information technology was the worst performer with 0.39% loss, undermining the firm cues from the US counterparts and Nasdaq, which ended higher overnight. In the tech space, the buy now pay later giant Afterpay and network operator Megaport were among the top losers. In the energy space, index heavyweight Woodside Petroleum was the top gainer, followed by Santos, Oil Search, Origin Energy, Beach Energy and Ampol, among others. And moving on now to the mining sector. The sectoral leaders BHP Group, Rio Tinto and Fortescue Metals Group ended in the red. In a similar trend, the gold miners such as De Grey Mining, Evolution Mining, Ramelius Resources, Silver Lake Resources also closed lower. And in the banking sector, 3 of the big 4 lenders, Commonwealth Bank of Australia and the Australia-New Zealand Banking Group Limited, as well as the National Australia Bank, ended higher. The share price of the Westpac Banking Corporation ended flat, pairing the early gains after the lender revealed potential fraud claims. And the bank claimed that it was exposed to as many as 200 million Australian dollars worth of potential fraud. The bank will pay around 87 million Australian dollars in compensation to about 32,000 customers whose financial advisors failed to notify them of market-sensitive information. And on that note, let us zoom our lens on the top gainers and losers of the day. Edutech firm IDP Education was the top gainer on the ASX pack, rising 20.66% after the company announced a major acquisition. In an exchange filing, the company said it had entered into a binding agreement to acquire 100% stake in the British Council's Indian International English Language Testing System operations. And some of the other notable gainers on the ASX were the gold miner, Chalice Mining, tech firm Nuix, iron ore explorer Nickel Mines and real estate firm Unibail Rodamco Westfield. On the flip side, intellectual property services provider IPH was the top loser on the ASX, falling 5% after the company announced the acquisition of Applied Marks. And the company has acquired online automated trademark platform Applied Marks for 5 million Australian dollars, with a further 2.1 million Australian dollars subject performance benchmarks. And some of the other top laggards were the software firm Megaport, funeral and crematoria service provider InvoCare, tech firm Appen and rare earths mining company Linus Rare Earths. And now, before we move on to the next segment in our show, it's time for a quick break.
Tune in to get the latest information.
Whether it's about market movements or the currency graph,
sectoral coverage or industry news,
we cover it all on our news segments.
Be on top of the latest news
with 𝐊𝐴𝐴 TV.
A warm welcome back, viewers. Sage here. You're watching 𝐊𝐴𝐴 TV live from the Sydney studios, and this is The Last Trade. Let's move on now to the Forex market and see how the Australian dollar and the bond yields are trading today. The commodity price-sensitive Australian currency drifted lower against the US counterpart on Friday as rises in the coronavirus cases and tighter restriction norms dented the investor sentiment. And the Australian bond yields also witnessed a sharp correction as the upbeat job data boosted the US dollar. The 10-year Australian bond yields traded lower by 3.42% at 1.439 at the time of reporting. And now let's focus on the shares that are in the news today. The gaming startup Bluebet Holding made a strong debut on the ASX today, rallying as much as 84% on the first day of trading. The company has successfully raised 80 million Australian dollars in an initial public offering, or IPO. The company intends to use the funds to expand in Australia and for a push into the US, where it plans to explore deals with casinos, sporting organisations and media groups to run their sports books in joint ventures. Next up, shares of Chalice Mining Limited rose as much as 6.6% to $7.40 Australian on confirming the high-grade zones at the Western Australia project. The Copper Gold Explorer stated the resource drilling continues to define the high-grade zones at the Julimar Nickel Copper Platinum Group Element, or PGE, project in Western Australia. And shares of software firm MOQ Limited surged 12.5% to hit a 5-month high of 22.5 cents Australian on plans to acquire the IT consulting firm Dienst Consulting for 3.78 million Australian dollars. Also making the news, shares of Australia's largest horticultural company, Costa Group, dropped after unveiling the entitlement offer to fund acquisitions, and the company plans to use the money to fund 200 million Australian dollars worth of purchases of 2PH Farms, a citrus grower in central Queensland, and 31 million Australian dollars to buy a property where a new citrus crop is being planted by 2PH. QBE Insurance fell on defending coverage allegations. The group announced, saying it would defend claims made by the gym chain Strand Fitness in the federal court that it had denied coverage to some policyholders who faced business disruption through COVID-19. And also making the news today, the share price of BOD Australia rose after the medicinal cannabis and hemp products company reported that it had achieved record medicinal cannabis sales growth during financial year 21. The company sold about 12,187 units of BOD's medicinal cannabis product during financial year 21, registering a year-on-year growth of over 200%. Payment and reward solutions provider Cash Rewards is next up, whose shares jumped as much as 23.7% on partnerships with ANZ Bank. The company stated it had partnered with the Australia-New Zealand Bank to launch its cashback payment program, and the Cash Rewards max for up to 4.7 million ANZ debit and credit card holders. And now, before we move on to the next segment in our show, just time for another short break. Property by 𝐊𝐚𝐥𝐤𝐢𝐧𝐞. Looking for a dream home? Well, that may sound easy, but it isn't. And from looking for a property that is the right fit for you in terms of cost and other factors, to zeroing down on the right mortgage plan, there are various aspects to consider. And for the latest lowdown on the property market, tune in on 𝐊𝐴N TV with me, Sage. I will give the latest updates on the property market as well as real estate stocks to help you make the right decision. Keep watching Property with 𝐊𝐴N. Welcome back, Sage here from the 𝐊𝐴N studios, and you are watching The Last Trade. Shares of car repair services provider AMA Group fell as much as 2.6% to 56 cents after the company's chief financial officer, Steve Becker, resigned to take up a position in another company. And the CFO's exit comes on the heels of Chief Executive Officer Andrew Hopkins' exit in February following an investigation into his conduct for alleged misplacement of funds. And next on our list is shares of the Macquarie-backed software provider Nuix rose as much as 6.9% to $2.49 Australian per share, and the stock has gained more than 5% for the second straight session after tumbling 13% on Wednesday. The court documents on Wednesday showed Australia's corporate regulator was investigating Nuix over suspicious revenue forecasts in its prospectus and its former CFO for alleged insider trading. The workplace software maker LiveTiles is the next shares that we will look at. The stock rose as much as 20% to 18 cents after the company signed a 3-year deal with Swiss food and beverage giant Nestlé. The company will provide its services via an employee experience solution initially to the 125,000 users. The firm's stated goal is to reach the Nestlé's entire workforce of more than 300,000 users within the second phase. And lastly in our show, let's have a quick look at the Asian markets performance. The Asian markets were trading on a mixed note on Friday as investors remained cautious ahead of Friday's closely watched employment report by the United States. The resurgence of COVID-19 cases in the region also dented the market sentiment, and Japan's Nikkei was trading 0.2% higher, while China's Shanghai Composite plunged 1.85%. And meanwhile, Hong Kong's Hang Seng was down 1.8%, while Taiwan's weighted index traded flat. India's BSE Sensex was down 0.1%, while New Zealand's benchmark S&P NZX 50 ended higher. And in the overnight trade on Thursday, all the three major US stocks ended higher. The Dow Jones rose 0.38%, while the S&P 500 gained 0.52% to close at a record high. The Nasdaq Composite settled 0.13% higher. Thank you so much for joining us in our live market updates this week, and that is all for now in the last trade. With our existing operations in Australia, New Zealand, UK and Canada, 𝐊𝐶𝐞 Media has launched its operations in the US markets, and every day in our first show, the Global Markets Updates, you can get the latest and important news of the UK and US markets from the overnight happenings. So on that note, I shall see you as close as possible to 10 a.m. live from Sydney on Monday morning. This is Sage signing off.